Of meeting practice. The Central Tablelands Weeds Authority live streams and records this meeting. The live stream and the subsequent audio-visual recording will be published on CTWA's website and remain publicly accessible for the duration required by legislation. By speaking at this meeting, you acknowledge and agree that your words and any images you may be broadcast live and made available in the public domain through CTWA's website. Please ensure that when you address the meeting, you are respectful of others and use appropriate language at all times. CTWA accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive comments or gestures made during the meeting by participants. Acknowledgement of country. Central Tablelands Weeds Authority acknowledges the Rotary people, the traditional custodians of the land where we work and live. CTWA celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and borders of the New South Wales Central Tablelands. Point 3, apologies and applications for leave of absence. I note there are none. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest by members?
No.
No disclosures. There are no presentations, and we move on to item 2, confirmation of the minutes of the prior meeting. The recommendation is that Council adopt the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority held at 7 Lee Street, Kelso, on 20th of February 2026. Do I have a motion, please? Member Ring and Member Gulliver. Any discussion? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We go to item 2.2. Is the confirmation of the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Council held on the 30th of March 2026. The recommendation is that Council adopt the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Central Tablelands Weeds Authority held at 7 Lee Street, Kelso at 12 p.m. on the 30th of March 2026. Could I have a motion, please? Member Gulliver and Member Graham. Any discussion? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We go to 2.3, actions arising from prior council meetings. The recommendation is Council notes the update on actions from the previous council meeting. Motion, please. Council Ring, Member Ring, Member Gulliver. Thank you. Discussion, please.
Only that on point 2, the status should be ongoing, not overdue.
General Manager, happy with that? Or what is it overdue?
Sorry, which
Item 2, 3.6 audit risk.
This is the issue about the ARIC terms of reference.
Yeah.
So through the chair, I noted it as overdue because at the last council meeting on the 20th of February, it was changed to the end of the third quarter. We're now at the end of the past the end of the third quarter. So I've noted it accordingly.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking calendar year, not financial year. My apologies.
So do we have a date for that?
We do have our ARIC meeting on the 8th of May, so I'll be able to provide an update after that meeting.
Chair, I was going to suggest I'll have a chat with the GM too, because we did a review in Blaney, and maybe a suggestion on a pathway forward following that review, and potentially some of the outcomes from that review, which have flowed in publicly to ARIC. So there was a slight change in the terms of reference, but only a very slight change. So happy to have a chat with the General Manager and try and arrange a time next week, probably on the phone, to catch up with him and sort of brief him on that. If that works, Chair.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Risk management policy, obviously, we know that's a work in progress. So, item 7, we've had the General Manager's performance review. We just need that document signed off, I think.
I think through the
And
chair.
a new contract at the end of it.
Creation of contract and execution.
Yes.
So 30th of June.
All right, I put the motion, all in favour? You, we go to item 3, General Manager's Reports. 3.1 is Investment Report. The recommendation is the Council notes the investment report as of 31st March 2026. Have a motion, please. Councillor Fry, seconder, Member Reynolds, thank you. Member Fry, Member Reynolds.
Shows we're in a fairly good cash position, Chair. I think
Yes.
it continues to be in a good cash position. And one assumes that the investment returns are continuing to at least stay stable, if not increase, and we're waiting to see what the Reserve Bank does there. But having 1.7 million in the bank at this time is a reasonably good position. A question though through to the General Manager with regard to the 31-day account, did we put any funds on hold at the 2.25%, or have we at this stage not put any funds on hold?
Through the General Manager, at this stage we have not put any funds on hold. However, the Admin Manager and myself are looking at the cash flow on a weekly, if not daily basis to see if that needs to change over the coming month or two.
So it's all on funds on notice, is it?
No funds are on notice.
Sorry, no funds are on notice, that's right, yeah. So all funds are on hold, not on notice.
Correct.
Yeah, fine, that's fine. And I think it's apart from the total source of funds being at 1.7, it's also nice to see that the unrestricted has gone up, which is important. Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, just quickly, so the business overdraft's our working account on a daily basis, I'm assuming.
Yes.
The business cash reserve, is that going to be at hand? Why are we only getting 0.4% there?
Through the Chair, you are correct in saying the business overdraft is where we pay all of our bills from. It's where all of our funds are dispersed from. The business cash reserve is an account where we do hold the remaining money that isn't on notice or in one of the notice accounts, which means that we can get access to it. Unfortunately, that account we're only earning 0.4% at the moment.
Is that like you can get daily access to it?
Yes. So I use that to basically like the overdraft account, but I keep the bulk of the funds in there, so at least I'm earning something other than nothing that I'd get in the overdraft. Yep. So I keep the overdraft next to zero, and only transfer funds into it when we need pay bills.
Well, seeing as interest rates have climbed up for the investor, and we've got some bigger numbers there, it's all about making a dollar wherever we can.
Absolutely.
A follow-on or another question. I have noticed that T Corp does have a 3-day at call account that's paying somewhere around 4%. Some councils do have that on board. I just more out of an investigation because there's probably some catches or something there that's not that may hinder. But if 4% compared to 0.4%, as in for a 3-day at call account, may be an option for the county council to actually earn some better money, and then sort of do a cash forecast and say, okay, for this month we need, so you've only got to give 3 days notice. But how it actually works and whether you lose the interest for the whole month, I don't know. But I just was wondering if the General Manager, in his spare moments, which he probably doesn't have that many, could actually just investigate to see whether that is a potential option.
Through the Chair, I'll definitely follow up with T Corp because in my past life I have had some dealings with them. But I think you're right that there are some catches around the volume of funds that must be invested, and I think there's also a tying to council with a borrowing type facility as well. But I'll definitely have a conversation with them, see if it's possible. Things may have changed since I last dealt with them.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 3.2, monthly financial report. Recommendation is the council note the report from the general manager on the profit and loss statement for the period ending 31st of March 2026. Do I have a motion, please? Member Reynolds, second to Member Ring, thank you. Member Reynolds?
Showing that we're tracking okay, still expected to have a loss, particularly with the decision to engage the general manager through till I think it's the 26th of June on a full-time basis. But we'll probably track closer to the loss, but still that we forecast in the budget, which I think, if my memory serves me right, was about 70.
Through the chair, it's
80,000. Okay, thank you, General Manager.
79,500.
But I suspect it will be a reasonable amount under that, but it'll still be a loss at a guesstimate, and please don't hold me to it, but a guesstimate around 40 to 50. But that's pure guesstimate and depends on expenditure towards the end of the year, as in for this month and the next 2 months, in the end of the financial year, particularly with court proceedings and so legal matters and things like that. And on the other side, with motor vehicle costs, which will come up in the QBRS, the next item, tracking well above, and because of the fuel prices, that there'll be some other offset, some extra costs, but there'll also be some savings. So time will tell, but we're tracking probably better than budget, but not by a huge amount, because we've allowed for the general manager to have extra time to actually undertake policy reviews and other matters in the county council. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Any other discussion? I suppose I'd like, why are the motor vehicle costs so much, $8,000 more than budgeted? Higher repair costs.
We have had a number of repairs that we've had to carry out. One was a fairly significant repair which involved a clutch from memory. So that was way over what we would normally expect in our schedule of maintenance and repairs. The other, I'm just looking at the detailed line now, but that's predominantly the main one that's impacted us.
Right. And was that in one of our newer vehicles or one of our old ones?
I'd have to take that on notice.
One of the older ones, I think.
One of the old ones.
The Chair, I think there's only about 12 or 18 months difference in age between
That's
the two.
right. So it wasn't covered by an extended warranty or anything?
No, we definitely checked that at the time.
What sort of kilometres do we put on a vehicle before we consider changing and upgrading it?
So,
Well, that's an issue that the general manager.
at the moment, there's nothing in our policy that specifies the turnover point, and that's part of the consideration in the new motor vehicle policy, that we a bit more market driven to when the best point is that we do turn over a vehicle, take into account kilometres, but also market resale value.
Yes, sure.
But to answer the question to some extent, back about, I think it was 3 years ago, the County Council did have a look under the previous term with regard to motor vehicles, and it was found about the 6-year mark but some of the vehicles did get to, I think, about 7 years or so. The Chief Biosecurity Officer may have a better idea or recollection, but I think it was about 7, maybe 7.5 years. But that was because because of COVID, we couldn't actually get vehicles, so there was huge delays. So we had to extend out. But we were looking, I think the sort of guidance, so it's not a policy, but guidance was about between 150 and 180,000 Ks, and between sort of 6 and 7 years, or 5 to 7 years, somewhere in that, on how many kilometres plus how many years of age. So that was a rough guide for the previous general manager before we traded in the fleet. And from a depreciation point of view, I think we were writing them off, if my memory serves me right, after 6 years, but it might have been 6.5 years that they were being written off. But the general manager may have a better recollection.
So our current depreciation schedule has them being written off over 6 years at 17% per year, straight line method.
Okay. Any further discussion? Just a quick question to you, General Manager. Doing these monthly financial reports, how much is that an added burden to your time over and above doing QBRS, etc.?
Through the chair, no.
Right.
It doesn't take a lot of time. The probably more time is taken in writing the report.
Right, yes. Thank you. Right, any further discussion? None. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried unanimously. 3.3, quarterly budget review statement, third quarter. Recommendation is that Council 1 authorise the General Manager in the capacity of the responsible accounting officer to finalise the quarter 3 quarterly budget review statement for the period ending 31st of March 2026 based on the financial information included in the agenda, and delegate authority to the General Manager to complete and submit the QBRS templates to the Office of Local Government by the statutory deadline 31st of May 2026 upon release of the approved templates by the Office of Local Government. Motion please. Member Reynolds, Member Ring, thank you.
So
Member Reynolds?
a question on the templates. So do we have different templates to a normal constituent council, or are they modifying the templates through the chair to the general manager?
Through the chair, the OLG releases new templates for every quarter. This quarter, they haven't yet released the templates. You note in the business paper, I did actually call the Office of Local Government to ask when they'd be released. They were still having some problems around finalising the templates. They're expecting to release them around today, if not next week sometime. They apologise, but they weren't available for me to complete them and submit them to part of this business paper.
But to some extent, what was provided in the previous report above is pretty well what's going to be downloaded into the.
It'd be exactly the same, so the numbers won't be changing. The other option, which I didn't put in the recommendation, is that council could endorse me to apply for an extension in the template submission, so I could submit it after the due date of the 31st of May and have council endorse it at the June council meeting and submit it after. But the numbers aren't going to change. It's just a case of filling out the template.
I don't think we need to do that. The number, as long as the numbers are the same, the numbers are the same.
Whether you want to, as in just note from the financial report that what the financial report presented in 3.2 is to be taken as the data to be inputted. Therefore, we've endorsed that data as so we don't need to come back and do a re-endorsement. I think would be a simpler way, because we can see the financials as presented there. We know you're just going to put them across.
So can I suggest we make 1, 2, 2, 3, because then it goes logically. 1, endorse the financial data presented.
In the monthly financial
In the
report
monthly financial
to the
statement.
end of March.
Yeah, monthly financial statement to the end of March for inclusion in the QBRS for the third quarter. QBRS, third quarter 2026 QBRS. Something like that.
I'm happy with that.
So put that as 1, because you have to know as 1, then 2 and 3 follow.
I just have a question about once you've completed, you can just send out a copy to everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So do you have that wording?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Bethany. All right, so is the mover and the second are happy with that wording
Yeah.
for 1 and the changed paragraphs? Okay, on that basis, I put the motion in 3 parts. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We go to 3.4, update of expression of interest for financial services. The recommendation of the council notes the update of expression of interest for financial services. Just before we put this motion, I just asked the general manager do we need a second part to this to say that Laurie Knight, local government consulting, has been engaged to provide, is engaged to provide financial services to CTWA, and that's still as we're endorsing it. You've asked for an endorsement down here, so therefore, by endorsing it, do we have to actually put it as a part of the motion? According as recommended, the
Yeah.
council endorse.
Well, maybe that's upon reflection, not correct wording.
We had a subcommittee to evaluate, and
Yep.
they've come up with a preferred supplier. But does that then have to be endorsed or authorised by the?
Can I just ask?
Safety-wise, it might be.
Be within my delegation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if it's within general manager's delegation, it doesn't need to be endorsed by the council.
And also, what happens if we didn't endorse it after they've been engaged,
I know.
creating a legal
Yes, it's just the
minefield?
word, it's just the wording of that paragraph that the council endorse.
How long have they been engaged for? Just 12 months?
Correct.
Right, okay.
Which was what was agreed when we.
Yeah, it's just if it goes more than, it was more than 12 months. If it exceeds the delegation, then we'd need to endorse.
Well, the other, well, we could say
Yeah.
two would be members note that the engagement is with the general manager's delegation.
So I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Maybe the
Okay,
second.
so what I'm suggesting is one, the council notes that for especially Ryan's concern. Two, members note the engagement of Laurie Knight, local government consulting, to provide financial services to CTWA is within the general manager's authority or delegation. Just if someone reads this paper, they'll say, yeah. You happy with that, Bethany? You got that? Are you happy with that? We have to move, can I move it, please?
So I'm happy to move it with the change.
Member Reynolds. Any other discussion?
So I've given, I was on the panel that did it, as in, we had, as it mentions here, two, I think it mentions here two, but there were two submissions for the work, and we reviewed, including references, including past work done, and this particular firm came out that has been done a lot of more work in this area compared to the other firm. And it was competitive from a price point of view, that this was where the panel decided to recommend.
Member Ing, do you have anything to say?
No. Member Reynolds has said it all.
Thank you, Member Ring.
It's okay.
No, any further discussion? If not, I put the motion as per wording change. Thank you. Unanimously approved. We go to 3.5, CTWA Finance Working Party Minutes. The recommendation that council notes minutes of the CTWA Finance Working Party meeting held on Wednesday the 8th of April 2026. Can I have a motion, please? Member Ring, second, and Member Reynolds. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to highlight for the members the recommendation to write off the debtor balances listed in the report, totaling $10,695.84, as they're no longer considered recoverable.
And that comes up as a confidential.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
But it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't break down
No.
here, whereas it does in the
No.
confidential section.
It's just flagging it.
But, yeah, okay. But it does note that we are still seeking to recover some of those.
So, Chair, if Member Ring's finished, I just wanted to highlight the internal audit. That this is the first time that I'm being aware of that the County Council has actually done an internal audit. It is progressing. A draft report, as it mentions here, has come back to the working group, and that from the National Audits Group, a very comprehensive report, may I say, looking at work health and safety management, and there will be further sort of movements along, including policy development at a later stage with regard to work health and safety. I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
And it may affect the evolution of our risk management policy.
Yes.
Any other discussion? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We go to 3.6 CTWA Audit Risk and Improvement Committee minutes. Recommendations, council notes the minutes of the CTWA Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 25th of February 2026 at Blaney Shire Community Centre. Do I have a motion, please? Member Reynolds, seconder. Member Fry, thank you. Member Reynolds?
I don't think there's a lot to add. The audit office did attend, which they didn't attend the previous one. There was an apology put in with regard to reasoning why they couldn't attend the previous one. There was some notation there from the chair of the ARIC committee with regard to previous non-attendance, and the audit officer has given a guarantee that they will attend from further on. There was some discussion about the delivery of the draft financial statements and whether, because it's very early on, as in where, and the General Manager may have the date, but I think it's either the end of July or very early August, General Manager, that...
So we'll need to deliver our draft financial statements within the first 2 to 3 weeks of July.
So ARIC wasn't...
Is that required?
In their timetable. Yes. But we, coming back to the previous recommendation with regard to the contractor that we have engaged, we did actually check out with that contractor before we did an engagement that they could actually help us with the financials within that 3-week period, and they gave a commitment. I think the General Manager has the exact wording, but of being able to do it within that time frame. But General Manager, do you have the...
They can do it within that
time frame. So that was pretty well. So that was one issue that was raised of concern, expressed some concern, and then there was discussions if we couldn't to actually potentially delay. The audit office said that they would look at that if we requested, but given the new financial contractor is able to do it or believes they're able to do it, we've stayed on the original timetable. So just wanted to flag that. That was one of the bits of discussion that was sort of put up with regard to it. The annual engagement plan as well was highlighted. No major issues besides the very tight time frame with regard to it. And we have in the past generally delivered in July or very early August to the audit office or to our auditors, because until the last, I think it's 2 years, we had private, I think it was Intentus, previously did it, whereas now the audit office are doing the audit. We've always delivered, been one of the first, if not the first, councils in the state to deliver the financials, except the last financial year where they were very much delayed.
So that's why they picked us to do it first off, because they know we're so reliable.
So anyway, I just wanted to highlight that. I think that's the major issue. Work health and safety, as I noted before, we've got the internal audit. That hasn't actually gone to ARIC yet, so we've still got to have the General Manager's response to the internal audit before that goes to ARIC for discussion. And I think that was the major issues discussed in the hour or so of the ARIC. Thank you,
All
Chair.
right, any other discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We go to 3.7, update on roadside spraying progress, financial year 2026. Recommendations, council notes a report on the financial year 2026 roadside spraying program. Can I have a motion, please? Member Fry. Second, please. Member Graham. Thank you. Member Fry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just note the incredible amount of kilometres sprayed out Tobrin way. Pray tell, what's the focus on Oberon at the moment?
You mean in forestry? Well, we have the most forestry, that's why.
Yeah, but do we focus on certain areas at certain times?
Well, it's just quite plain, we have more forestry abutting our roads than any other council. That's why the majority is in Oberon.
Yeah, I understand you have more forestry, but if forestry designated that amount, that they prefer the forestry they have in Oberon.
Through the chair.
You don't understand what I'm trying to say?
Through the chair, Forestry Corp have a a schedule,
Yeah.
like.
Specific to what they
councils.
need, yeah, right.
And so each year there are certain roads in certain LGAs designated.
Right, so
This
it's-
year happened to be that Oberon did have a higher kilometres.
what I'm trying to say, they don't spread it
With those-
evenly across every LGA, they don't see through those invisible lines, they just have their own preferences that, yeah, right, okay.
It's in agreement with the forestry.
But you'll notice that every year, there's more in Oberon than anywhere else because of the amount of forestry we have.
Yes, I understand that point, thank you, Chair.
Right,
Spray
so
and
even next year, you'll see there's a lot more Oberon than Bathurst or Blaney, for instance.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
I would make a comment, I know the cost is $554, I think that's a little less than we quoted them. So that means that we will be able to, have we expended all the money now? Because we had originally 20 and then we got an extra, they increased it to 60. So have we still got 20 outstanding or have we used it all?
So,
You go first.
what I was going to say, we have reached out to Forestry Court and explained where we're at. They've agreed to an extension to the amount of roads to expend the full
Yep.
$60,000. I'm not exactly sure where that's at with the remaining 20,000, but I'm happy to be.
So,
are they going to throw some more at Bathurst? Just asking.
I'm not sure where the roads were that were going to be in addition.
Yeah, so they've agreed for us to use the remaining money, to get a head start on some of the other stuff. And they've particularly asked us to do one road first, so we've started on that.
Councillor Hoover.
Coming up.
Coming up to that, right. And a quick, so with the roads program at the moment, noting, apart from Oberon, is just about everyone else finished?
Everyone else is pretty well rounded out.
When do you envisage stopping roadside spraying because the plants is getting to that stage?
At this stage, it's pretty much a day by day watching the weather and that and seeing what happens. So,
But you probably we probably have to stop it by the beginning of May or something.
yeah, hopefully we can sneak through the end of April, but we just have to take it as it comes. I know we're
I
starting.
only ask you because I'm doing this.
Yeah. So they're playing that one in a touchy.
So we may not get all of the forest, that extra 20,000 used for forestry if it gets to the stage where it's not what you know, it's, yeah, okay. And they're happy for us to then use that next year when we start in November or whatever.
I think that conversation's yet to take
Oh,
place.
yes, that's right, yeah.
But yeah, at this stage, it's good that we got through there, and then they've said just keep progressing.
So how much of Oberons do you think you'll get done? Noting your late engagement.
I think we're still having those conversations as to how much they want us to. We initially went to Oberon and specified 176 kilometres from memory.
But that was
In two sections, and we've progressing through those. We get to have the conversation as to if they want more than that done.
okay, but I thought the idea is that they've got 176, they said do as much as you can now, and then you don't do it, we carry over. So we won't know that, I suppose, until we stop spraying. You can say it's too late to spray. No, it's not. Is that right? Okay. And you'll then make a report to Oberon and say, right, we've done this much. Okay. All right. All the other councils finished. Lithgow, Blaney, and Bathurst.
Bathurst is all done. Lithgow, we've got a little bit left over, but the shut of the highway through up. We were working on that.
Oh, come on, everyone uses that excuse.
And
And
Bathurst.
diesel buses.
Oh, diesel, I'm diesel, of course.
And Bathurst all done, just to make sure that Member Fry's happy.
Is Bathurst, yeah? You're all done?
Yes, Member Ellis?
A question on Blaney's. We've only got 76, yet it was $95,000, so we're missing, I assume, the Cadia section out of Blaney's. A section of works, because I know we're very close to spending the 95, it might be 93 or 94, it might be, so I'm just sort of wondering, as in, was that deliberately missed, or is it just an accidental miss, and whether we could actually have another report back, which includes that, and what that actually costs, the Cadia section of it, for that roughly $20,000 that's supposed to be done in Cadia.
We can take that on notice and provide that to councillors.
I thought there was a note somewhere, maybe. I saw it somewhere else, that there was reference to Katie or not. But anyway, okay.
Not in this report.
No. I just remember reading something about it. Maybe. Okay, any other discussion? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Go to 3.8, financial year 2027 budget. The recommendation is the council, 1, approve the draft financial year 2026-27 operational plan and budget for the purpose of public exhibition. 2, place the draft financial year 2026-27 budget on public exhibition for a period of 28 days in accordance with legislative and policy requirements. And 3, receive a further report at the June 2026 council meeting following the exhibition period, representing any submissions received and seeking final endorsement for the financial year 2026-27 budget. Could I have a motion, please? Member Ring, Member Fry, thank you. Member Ring.
I've just got a couple of questions, if I may, for you to the General Manager. You've got to assume that the roadside spray program will continue for all 4 LGAs. Have we got confirmation from Oberon yet that they will participate?
Through the chair, no. I do note though that roadside spraying is cost neutral. So if we do not go ahead with Oberon next year, then it's no impact per se on the bottom line.
Okay. Staff salary costs, you've allowed a 5% increase. Noting the award negotiations haven't been finalised. Are there any salary progressions that will be undertaken in the next 12 months? Have they been included, or is everyone at the top level?
Through the chair, I believe most people are at the top of the salary progression. I could be wrong. I can double check that and let councillors know.
Yep, and I appreciate the fact that you've allowed a 1-year increase on fuel, but I think it's sometimes we need a discussion on, well, now the refinery, Victoria, burning. We're going to a different level of fuel security. There is a need for some sort of business continuity plan, and what we do and don't do, if in fact we cannot get diesel for our vehicles. And I know all the ARICs have been provided a report from Ron. Lithgow has done its own business continuity plan in relation to this, and they're looking at what Ron provided to see if it can be tweaked. But I really think at some stage we need to have that discussion before we hit the financial year. So what do we do? Where's our priority? If fuel becomes limited, I think we need that discussion earlier rather than later, so we're actually prepared. Maybe for the next council meeting. That's basically all I've got.
And also, the other concern is that it's not only fuel, it's the plastic drums in which we get our chemical. The availability of those there may be issues in that, because they're all produced from petrochemicals.
And the ships that actually bring them out here may not have fuel to bring them out here.
And the price of those drums. I know that PVC pipe is now becoming very hard to procure.
All freight costs are rising.
And freight costs are rising.
Yeah, it's all
So
going to
it's the freight plus the actual content of those plastic containers. Is that another one?
Well, yeah, that should be considered, but I'm more concerned about the operational decisions we're going to have to make if this hits the fan, because we're going to have to make difficult. Well, every council's going to, on what services are provided. I mean, we got the inspections, we did the weed side spraying, but where do we draw the line? What's the key component?
Well, it's not only us.
That'll be every
It's
council.
no, but that's our contractors.
Oh, the contractors as well, yeah, that's right, so we need to,
So, as I understand it, we don't have fuel reserves, do we?
No.
They're quite direct.
but we need to be talking to constituent councils who do have fuel reserves, if they'd be prepared to help out. We're not talking a massive drain on constituent councils. But we need to have those negotiations earlier rather than later.
So Chair, could I suggest with Councillor Ring and any other councillor that's got ideas, because this isn't going out on on public exhibition, that you actually put feedback in and send an email in with the concerns or the issues to the General Manager, any other council on those matters, so that they can be fed into the budget for the final budget. So there may be material changes in the final budget that we adopt. And remember, a budget is an estimate too, so.
I know, I appreciate that, but what I'm talking about is not just the budget, it's the impact on the services we provide. We have to be able to make an informed decision on our priority is to get the contractors out there to do it, the roadside, or our priority is to focus on getting the inspections done.
But they will have a zero impact, it'll just mean they'll do less roadside.
Yeah.
The roadside point,
If that's the priority.
Councillor Fry?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to acknowledge Councillor Reynolds, who still had a meaningful involvement in rolling this budget onto this council. To Councillor Rings, to Member Rings' point, I like to think that this organisation provides pretty good value. I wonder if there's any point of influence or any contacts we have, connections with Oberon Council, that we could assert our value to them in the hope that they would continue with us next year as budget. Do you know anybody?
No one of influence.
No one of influence.
No one of influence.
Oh, actually, Councillor Graham.
You're talking in relation to the roadside, are you?
Yes.
Well, as you're aware, at the moment, Oberon has appointed two contractors, one being the CTWA. So I'm sure over the next period, that there will be an evaluation of the performance of CTWA and the other contractor. To see, and out of that, there will be a determination leading forward. But I think that there are obviously a number of benefits that CTWA provides. In particular, it's being able to provide significant recording of areas sprayed and mapped and things, which probably gives them an advantage at that side. From a cost perspective, which all councils are highly aware of, that has to also be evaluated. I can't. You would appreciate, Member Fry, that I have to wear two hats, and that the council, Oberon Council, has to make that decision. I can't make a decision.
Oh, really? I thought it was the empire of McKibben out there. No, thank you, Chair. I think you should continue to lobby on behalf of this organisation too, that we are great value for money. And finally, I think it's been discussed prior, and indeed we've got the General Manager working full time for the balance of this financial year. We've got 20 odd policies outstanding at the moment. There's a lot of backlog of work to do. Some of that will be getting done, but I wondered if there was any discussion of the budgetary sense in its pulling together the benefits of having a full-time in perpetuity, but also and increasing some of those revenue assumptions.
So you would have looked at and you would have seen that there was a note in the profit and loss that estimated that if the General Manager was engaged for a year, it would be an additional 99,000 something.
But we need to reflect in the revenue assumptions that potentially that could mean more revenue through commercial sources or private contracts, etc.
Well, I don't think we can do that at this stage, just we get a bit further down the track.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just starting the conversation with this item, if that's all right.
We're looking at a number of opportunities, and some of those were discussed a little earlier today in the workshop. but we have put forward, and we do know the numbers, and it will be on the notes to the profit and loss that goes on public exhibition as to the figures if we were to engage the general manager, up for a full year, or if we were decided to the 31st December, you can backtrack that figure to come to that. And we have, at this stage, looked at engaging, we've based the figures on the fact the general manager will be full-time at least till the 30th September 2026. But we have also done a note, as I said, saying if he was engaged for all of 26-27, that financial year 27, it would be an additional 99,000. So we've made that publicly clear. I understand your position in relation to on the revenue side, but we have to get a little bit more clarity and move a bit further down the track before I believe we can even put notes to the accounts in relation to that additional revenue. Obviously, when that crystallises, we can then put that in as a revenue base. But it's too early at this stage, and the general manager and I have been having discussions in another area, which we will update you in the meeting moving forward under another item.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks again to Member Reynolds.
Thank you, Member Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Member Fry, for your acknowledgement. There's a lot of thank yous here.
Thank you, Member Graham.
I think it needs to be a couple of things that need to be noted. The Finance Working Party did spend a fair bit of time looking at things, and so we did look at putting in. We have recommended to put in for that first quarter that the Chair just acknowledged, so that the General Manager continue full time until the 30th of September, but that does have budgetary implications. The original draft budget we were looking at was very close to break even. We're now projecting, and remember it is a budget, so it's a forecast $40,000 deficit for next financial year in having the General Manager on. We have cut back compliance, recommended that we cut back compliance, so legal proceedings from, I think it's 30 to 20, General Manager. So we have cut back in some areas, but again, with the QBRF process, if we do have a number of prosecutions, and we haven't had many this financial year, or ones that have proceeded through, and I don't think at the end of March we still didn't have a cost on the partial proceeding through, but it's unlikely that we would have spent, even with the 3 prosecutions that were put forward, the $20,000 anyway on the fixed fee that we do have with the legal firm Mac and Mac. At the moment, from my understanding, we would have gone close to it with some other legal proceedings, but not quite gone there. So it was recommended that we actually cut back. A bit of a discussion on whether we should or shouldn't have, but we do have the capacity to increase if there are more legal proceedings. It just means the deficit may be higher. Again, it's a fairly conservative budget. And I commend the General Manager, who did spend a lot of time running through and came backwards and forwards and asking a few questions with regard to the development of the budget. So,
and relevant scenarios that you
yes,
apply.
And so with scenarios, and one will be, as the General Manager has, the Chairman has indicated during the confidential section, we'll discuss potential revenue source, which may have different ramifications, but we are looking at this budget without that potential revenue source, as in because it may not eventuate, it may eventuate, so we were conservative in putting out this budget as it was with a loss. But looking forward, and again, I know you start to get into crystal ball gazing, but in 27, 28, a surplus of $1,705, so followed by the following year a deficit again of just over $8,000. So again, projections and things may change, but we do have the capacity through the QBRS to make those changes. Chair?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you go through the detail behind the profit and loss, I think that's there's a lot of interest there, a lot of detail there. If I could, just by a security officer through your General Manager, you're probably the closest to understand how many prosecutions are potential for next year.
Yeah.
Yes, we can come back to it. I mean, I'm only talking about numbers, not
Yeah,
numbers, not. I don't want details.
no.
It's just to say if we're likely to go to, let's say, 8 prosecutions or something, and we allocate a certain figure to it. You know, have we allocated enough for prosecutions to the budget? So that's, you know, I'm not talking about.
There's a handful of properties that are coming up due to be re-inspected that are heading their next step, if they haven't done the work, is to head down that direction.
So 10, 6, 10.
There's a couple due in the next couple of months that I know of.
And you'll get I mean, you usually get a feel as to whether people are going to do it or not do it. I would imagine, yeah.
And then obviously it depends, prosecution versus like the undertaking path sort of thing. Like we had a couple of properties that we were heading down the process. We started that legal process and then they ended in undertaking. So that stopped the prosecution and we head off in the other direction.
So do you get a feel of what, 6 or 8? I'm just trying to see if we've done put the right figure into prosecutions. I mean, obviously some of those may fall away if they do undertakings.
Yeah.
So let's say, if you think it's 10, and let's say 30% fall away for undertakings, that might be, I don't know. So you're left with 7. Is 6 or 7 probably the figure or less?
With all respect, Chair, I think it's a bit
Yeah,
of
all right.
crystal
I'm happy
gazing.
with that, yeah.
I think if we need to put in extra money, we do it. I think it's really, let's not go down that path. We can't guess. There's so many variables.
All right, we're happy with that. So, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We go to item 4, Biosecurity Operation Manager's Report. 4.1, Property Inspections. Recommendations that the council notes a report from the Biosecurity Operations Manager. So the motion, please. Member Ring, seconder. Member Mahoney, you're right, Member Ring.
Well, look, I think the staff continue to do a good job, and I'm happy with the report.
Member Mahoney,
No, don't copy it.
any other discussions?
Oh,
Yes, Member Reynolds?
a question. So looking at the current report for 25, there's still one outstanding in Bathurst and Oberon, etc. So was that when was the 90 days, or was that 1st of November when they fell due, and so 3 months after that was 90 days? I'm just, are they still outstanding?
So through the chair, for this report at this point in time, the only overdue ones are the November and December inspections, and so they total 5. What's been noted is the November inspections, one's still outstanding. Second one, we're having trouble locating the owner, but all 3 December inspections were completed in the first week of April. So really there's only 2 outstanding from November that are current.
Thank you.
And noting that as we approach June, normally the inspections start to peter down. Is that going to be the case this year? Oh, sorry, as we end up going to June, July. May there's usually quite a few inspections quite often, and then we go down to sometimes they're in June, but the spike in June was due to in Lithgow was due to something unusual, wasn't it?
It was the
Rope pair,
Rope pair, yeah. But usually, so do we anticipate going after May that they'll decline quite significantly until to September again, during the winter months?
They always come down a little bit, but also too, in the previous year, part of the reason the others pulled back was because everyone went to go deal with the repair situation. But we are still tracking sort of higher than what we have previous years. Like it was,
Through the chair, I think the aim is that there's a consistency in the number of inspections that are being carried out, whether they're first, second or third inspections, that we're focusing on our biosecurity officers achieving a certain level of production each week in, week out. So I would expect the numbers to be consistent because there are always inspections to be carried out. Previous years, there has been the interference from, as noted, the rate pair, but also the aerial spray program. We don't have those this year.
And then that likely may be hard to see when we do the Tussock certainly. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Yes.
Yes, General Manager, the presentation with Bathurst Council in recent times, which was good, and I've raised this before, and I don't know whether we can move any further forward with it. All these inspections that we've been doing and the data that we're collecting, and Member Reynolds talks about raising revenue, and I'm always, if we could, I don't know, but I've been told no, but I still want to try and get, when the properties are sold, to have an inspection from the Weeds Authority to say where we stand and where the property stands. We put a charge on it. We've already done a lot of work in that area, and no one buys a house without a building inspection or a pest inspection. And I think we should be pushing that because, you know, we're here to, our mission statement really is to control the weeds, and the only way we're really going to do that is put the pressure on the landowner.
And I noted in the budget, the actual, the amount of money we've actually received from issuing those types of certificates is reduced. So that means we're getting less requests for those certificates than we normally do because we charge for it.
Through the chair, I agree with the member. There's a huge opportunity in this area. It requires time to go out and develop this concept and promote it. And I think one of the avenues that can be done is through conveyances, real estate, not real estate agents, but the legal side of things. So,
But it's not compulsory.
No,
It's
That's
not.
my point. How do we get that down?
Legislation, well,
Building inspections, they're not
You don't have to
compulsory,
all
but
answer at once.
it's in your financial interest. I think, I totally agree with where you're going. This should be seen as the same as a building inspection. You don't want to walk into a property carrying a $10,000 to $40,000 liability that'll become known to you when you get an inspection 5 years down the track. So it's a prudent measure to get conveyancers, local conveyancers, to work with their clients and say, look, I suggest you do this. It's a relatively small fee, and if there is an outstanding weed burden on the property that they're not aware of, they can negotiate that through the price they pay, or they have an awareness of what they're up for when they buy the property.
So should we reach out to the conveyancers and suggest this?
I think that's what the general manager
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Could I also suggest that if it hasn't been done before, that a notice of motion is prepared for the annual assembly, the state one, later this year, and we submit it
Yes.
and get it on the table for all councils. At least then they're going to advocate at that higher level.
Well, we raised it at the Mathers meeting.
It's been raised, and I know Lisa, who previously worked on it with the councils and trying to convince them to, when people come forward, to try and get them to do this. But maybe working with the conveyancers and the solicitors is a more appropriate way to do it.
I just believe it could make a big difference.
Yes.
Because there's so much opportunity with it for not only creating employment, people taking responsibility. You know, that's the two avenues also.
So could we add a couple of extra points to it? One would be to develop a program, an education program for conveyancers and solicitors about weed obligations. And the second is to prepare a notice of motion for the state conference on compulsory weed reports on properties, on rural properties.
And thank you, Chris. So you've been to our problem in Ezra Street up by the centre. It's Black Brick, Ezra Street.
Your new Windy Hills Reserve, go and have a look at the serrated tussock.
That's right.
Drove past it this afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get them to mow it, mate.
Chair, there,
You've got no money to
sorry,
pay things
right,
up.
I can't do it in a second.
Sorry, you're intending to put this by?
I'm putting it up as an amendment, so
Yes.
for two additional
So would you
points.
repeat it? One is council notes and reports, two,
Two is that council, the administration prepare an educational program for councillors, for conveyancers
yeah,
and solicitors on the need for weed inspections for rural properties,
Pre-purchase.
pre-purchase.
on pre-purchase inspections and certificates.
And that point 3 would be that
Prepare a notice of motion for the state local government conference, to make it mandatory
for pre-purchase inspections.
for pre-purchase inspections and certificates to be issued. I suppose one question is, do we have the resources to do that number of inspections? If asked.
Well, if we do it, if we do it, some of them would be on properties that we've already inspected. Some of them would be on new properties, but at the end of the day, we need to undertake a percentage of those properties to meet our WACC requirements anyway. So we're ticking a box off that we've already got to potentially do.
So maybe we don't say pre-purchase inspections, we just say pre-purchase certificates, because if we already know that we've got a direction on a property, we don't have to go and inspect it again, we just say no to the direction on it. You know, sort of that.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's also an opportunity, in my view, on two things at once. You see the neighbours while you're there, and it's all about utilising your time.
Okay, so did you get that wording, Bethany? You did? Okay, so who was the mover and seconder?
Well, I move the amendment.
The amendment and the second, member Gulliver, okay.
did you remove the original?
No, to note the
You note
report.
the council notes report. for the
Still
Life
keeping
Security
the note
Operations
report.
Managers. One, two is council prepare education
I don't know.
program for conveyance and solicitors on
Otherwise,
pre-purchase,
we've got to go through an amendment to.
pre-purchase certificates.
No, I appreciate that. Who moved it originally?
That's what I was asking. Bethany,
Does anyone remember?
The original
Yes.
motion.
Yep.
Member
Oh,
Ring.
oh, okay, there you
seconded
go.
by Member Marnie.
so,
There you go.
member Ring, if you agree to this, member Ring, you agree opposite the amendment? Member
Oh,
Ring-
no, I think it should be an amendment.
Member
That's it.
Marnie,
No,
you
no.
agree
Have
to
limited
change?
short-term memory.
Yeah,
Two of us.
yeah.
So the Lithgow motion.
So is everyone else, apparently.
Yeah, that's right.
So the Lithgow motion.
You'll get it
you're happy
sorted
with those
between us.
changes?
We are indeed. I think.
So are you sure you wouldn't like us to share it between one of the other councils?
Well,
We don't want to be greedy.
No, we're going for wisdom here.
Member
Okay.
Reynolds.
So 2 points or 2 questions, and one question, one comment. Would there be any conflict of interest if we were to inspect something we were getting commercial gain out of, to also have WAP funding attached to it? So is that is it permissible to do both at once? So it needs to be investigated just to make sure that there's no issues with payment and then compliance, that we're already being paid to do something that then we're doing under WAP funding. So that's one that needs clarity. But secondly, the problem is if we go and if someone buys a property, the clock starts again. So we go back to year 1 from year 4, even though there might be a direction. Could even be court proceedings. I understand. Well, maybe I'm not quite sure about court proceedings if it goes that far. But if we've just issued a direction, that goes back to the first inspection again because there's a new owner. But whether the
You can
chief
issue a
vice
direction immediately, as I understand it. You don't have to go back, we don't have to go back to our voluntary weed control notice, that's how we're applying for that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So, yeah. Yeah, so technically we can start at a direction if it's serious enough. If a landowner was to buy a property that was currently under a direction, and they knowingly bought the property under a direction, then we can stay at the direction level, but obviously we're gonna give them a reasonable time to
Extend their time.
do it because they've bought the problem that they're never trying to fix. So we'd be reasonable on that side of it.
Doesn't go right back to the beginning.
But how do they get to know that there's a direction on the property unless the landholder is
Under the
forthcoming?
Conveyancing Act, not under our act, but under the Conveyancing Act, they're supposed to disclose to any potential buyer that they have a legal direction outstanding on them.
Supposed to.
Supposed to.
Yes.
You know what lawyers are like.
So what we're trying to do is say, if you get this certificate, then you've got no excuse whatsoever because you know there's a direction on it.
Ignorance is the.
Not if you get the certificate, yes. Right. Any further discussion? All right,
Just put it.
I put the motion in three parts. Do you want me to read it or you write?
We're right.
All right, all in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Four point two, weed action plan progress update.
Sorry, Chair, before we move on, someone's clicking a pen and it's actually interfering with the microphone, so I don't know who's clicking, but it's interfering. Well, I don't know what it is, I can hear it. and see it.
Might be putting it down. Yep, okay.
Recommendation is council note the report from the Biosecurity Operations Manager on the weeds action program, WAP progress. Can I have a motion, please? Member Fry, seconder, please. Member Ring, thank you. Member Fry. Nothing to say? Member Ring?
Two questions for you to the General Manager. Goal 1 and Goal 2 both have some line items highlighted in red, so they're significantly outstanding, or nothing's been done. I just want to know how they're going to be addressed.
Through the chair, I might throw to my.
That's your prerogative.
Biosecurity Officer?
That's all right. So through your chair, so the goal 2 ones, they get undertaken in the last couple of months of the financial year. That's when they're booked in. They're a site that we have that we do yearly inspections on for a particular matter. So it's not at that point in time.
No, that's fine.
The two that are in section 1, one of them being the rail, we do that usually at the end of after we get to the innovation, we let them do their work for the corridors, and then we come back in the months after that. And similarly for the one above that, which is roads, we finish the program and then we go through and do the follow-ups after that. So yes, they're all sitting there with very low numbers, but they're all due to be taken in the next one.
Okay, I appreciate that. I've got nothing else.
Thank you. Basically, this is a good news story. We're probably ahead of where we are normally with the, getting meeting our WAP requirements. So that's why we, generally put the report in, show where we are. Member Hill.
Two things, yes, one we're ahead, which you've just highlighted as well, so great to have so many greens, where we've finished some of them for the year, we've still got a quarter to go. The one area that to highlight with regard to roads, and this may be medium term, when we get the spray units implemented correctly, that hopefully we can actually reduce, if not generally cut out, or maybe just do a spot audit on a couple of roads, rather than actually, because of the data that we're actually getting when we do go to do roadside spraying, rather than spending the staff's time so they can go and do more private property inspections or other inspections, railway lines. But one area that does concern me with regard to pathways is the railways. I see we've done 0, so hopefully that's going to take place very shortly. But because there is, I've noticed on the western line in certain sections, particularly around the Millthorpe village, for example, there's a fair bit of blackberry growth that was done about 3 years ago, but it's come back again. Also on the Blaney to Drumongle line, there is, so this is the disused line, particularly around Blaney Township, huge amount of blackberries around, but in other parts of the line too, down through to Carcoar and then down through to Lyndhurst. Particularly, and I know there is a pea, I think it is, a rare pea plant that's between Mandurama and Lyndhurst, so we can't actually go and spray, but to actually develop some other form of method to control whether it's basil barking or whatever it is, painting on the, as in cutting off the bushes, but there are a large number of blackberry bushes that weren't controlled back 2 or 3 years ago, and they're getting bigger, particularly around the Mandurama village. So if there's something we can have a look at there with regard to, and again, it may actually now be transport, and I have reached out this week to the CEO of Trainlink, which I think might cover it under transport these days, so that's Roger Weeks. But whether it's still UGL, I don't know, and I'll leave it up to the Chief Biosecurity Officer, but happy to help, because I understand the Rural Fire Service has actually now gone back to transport again rather than UGL for weed issues in the rail corridors and other around villages, because I know around Blaney, Rural Fire Service is also in discussions because they're concerned about the weeds on the blackberries on the western side of Blaney. So just something to keep in mind, that there are issues in certain parts of the rail corridor, whether alternative methods can be used to control those blackberries. When the inspections, and I assume through the chair to the general manager through to the Chief Biosecurity Officer, will you be undertaking inspections on the rail corridor in the very near future?
Yeah, so, as you said, yeah, so we let them get usually to the end of April to finish their yearly program, and then we go and inspect after that. So in the next few months, we'll be doing the rail inspections, because a lot of that we've got to get high rail access into the corridors, which we then need to accompany the rail crews to get access in there to inspect it.
But through you, Chair, the Blaney to Drumongle one, and I think there's one, is there one at Taranah? Or,
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's also one over on the Lithgow side too, I think, isn't there?
it's going out of Oberon.
Yeah.
But there's also one that goes up towards Mudgee or something, is
Yeah,
there a rail
yeah.
line as well, whether we can get access, and that's where, as in with the Blaney to Drumongle one, that there is an issue there with the around Mandurama, but there are blackberries in other parts of the line too, particularly around Blaney itself township as well. So just to alert the Chief Biosecurity Officer to look at an alternative, because control wasn't done 3 years ago around Mandurama, and so those bushes are getting quite large, particularly right near the village of
And
Mandurama.
what is it at P? What's
Swaynos Erector. That was my project at Local Land Services 8 years ago. It's
what is it?
Swaynos Erector, small purple pea. There you go. It's also on Marotheri Road, but they just like demolished the whole ecosystem there. So yeah, basically you touch it with soapy water and it keels up and dies. So you can imagine what spray does to it.
Right. Okay.
Pretty
Good
yeah,
learning.
just to follow up on Member Reynolds' question, are each of the officers going to look at rail segments within their inspection zone?
So,
If
It's done from a uniform position, isn't it? Yeah, I think you got Chris.
yeah, we've got to go through the whole qualifications of getting certified by rail and licensed to be in those sections, and then we've got to have accomplishment by rail to get permission to be in there, because we've got to have possession officers and everything to be in the rail corridor, so we've got to shut down the rail network. So yeah, you can't just wander in there to do it.
No, I appreciate that. Just interested in whether each segment will have a part of that segment inspected as well.
Yeah, so normally we try and spread it between each of the council
Okay.
areas.
So when we issued directions before, we issued a number of directions covering certain areas within the rail corridor transport in South Wales. So I think Chris will do the same, he'll segment it out like he did with the directions
And
before.
then we work it out.
Okay, thank you.
And then obviously we've got to be able to work with their maintenance and their schedules, because we can't just, that's why timing wise, we've got to wait to sort of try and fit in when they can get us in there.
All right, any further discussion? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation 4.2. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We go to 5, general business, policy library update. Recommendation of council notes a report of the update of CTWA's policies. Motion, please. Member Ring, seconder. Member Reynolds, thank you. Any discussion?
No.
General manager, Member Reynolds.
I was just going to highlight that a couple of the policies on the schedule here will be delayed from May in particular to a later date because of as in modifications, etc. So
So
just
risk of
highlighting
motor vehicle and biosecurity and enforcement will be delayed. They have been initially considered, but further considerations should be taken into account in relation to those policies, so they will be delayed till at least May.
no, later than May.
Later than May, sorry, yes. Any other discussion? I think we commend the general manager on those who have been completed and the progress that has been made on the ones we just referred to, the risk, the motor vehicles and biosecurity enforcement and compliance, because there has been considerable work done on those already. And it's now, a lot of the rest of it is for us to come back with feedback and your consultation is step neutral from the rest of the list. Okay. No further discussion. I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Unanimously. Item 8 is confidential reports. The items.
Just jumped ahead.
Sorry?
It's item 6.
It's item
Chair.
6.
Oh, sorry, item 6. Obviously can't read. Oh, confidential reports. The matters listed there, 6.1 prosecution update, 6.2 weed risk ratings by property, 6.3 penalty infringement notices, and 6.4 request to write-off age debtors, 6.5 business opportunity, and 6.6 cyber security policy are considered by the General Manager in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act, considered confidential and are designated to be dealt with in a confidential section of this meeting pursuant to Section 92A of the Local Government Act 1993. Could I have someone to move us into confidential, please? Member Gulliver, second Member Ring, wasn't it? Thank you. All in favour? Could we cease the recording, please, Bethany? member Reynolds, seconded by member Gulliver. 6.4, age debtors write-off. The motion was that council, one, note the report from the general manager on the age debts of CTWA, and two, endorse the write-offs of the debtor balances listed in the report, totaling $10,695.84, as they are no longer considered recoverable. The mover was member Reynolds and the seconder was member Ring. 6.5, business opportunity. The motion passed was that council, one, notes the update from the general manager regarding an emerging business opportunity to expand CTW service delivery activities. Two, endorse the general manager to progress discussions and negotiations in relation to this opportunity, consistent with the proposal outlined in the confidential attachment. Three, authorises CTWA, subject to agreed terms and conditions, to enter into a service agreement relating to this matter, with the execution agreement to be undertaken by the chairperson and the general manager. It's moved by member Reynolds, seconded by member Ring. 6.6. Cyber security policy. The motion passed with the council endorsed the cyber security policy. The mover was member Reynolds and the seconder was member Ring. I note that the next ordinary meeting of the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority is scheduled for 2 p.m. on Friday the 19th of June 2026 at 7 Lee Street, Kelso. I thank all members and the public for their attendance, and I note the meeting's closure at 4:03 p.m. Thank you, everyone.